I'm a big to small guy. I cannot choose the lamp until I have the table that the lamp is sitting on. I cannot choose the table that goes next to the couch until I have the couch. So my process, and this is just me, like I actually worked with a set decorator who could start with the tchotchkes. I can't. Hi there. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jon Hutman, and I'm a motion picture production designer. You might know my work from some of the films that I've done with director Nancy Meyers. Today, we're going to do something a little different. A lot of people have asked, how do I recreate the looks from your movies in my house? We are lucky enough to have started off on a relationship with Chairish, which is a vendor that I use that sells used furniture online. I am going to use Chairish as an example and show you how I find the pieces that would go into a house. In this case, we're going to talk about a Santa Barbara casual style home inspired by Nancy Meyers' film It's Complicated, which I designed. Now let me be clear, I'm not getting paid by Chairish, but they have created a little feature about me and a store within the site where you can actually buy some of these pieces. Check the link in the description, choose what you like. I will not receive a commission. When I describe the homes and the sets that I've created, I call the style casual elegance. There is an aspirational quality, but there is also a kind of comfort. So here are the elements that I think define that style. Neutral, natural color palette with a few bright accents, warm colors, orange, yellow, a little bit of bougainvillea fuchsia maybe, or dark contrasty accents. In It's Complicated, orange is the main accent color. What we're looking for in terms of color and in terms of the pieces that we'll find on Chairish is these specific, personal, interesting touches, which look good to you. They don't have to look good to me. Number 2, natural materials. Oak, linen, sisal, wicker. It's important that nothing we bring into that mix of styles is too loud or specific or prominent. What we're going for is a timeless, eclectic mix of styles unified by materials and colors. One of the things that I think makes an antique piece of furniture live in a contemporary home is the finish. Like, see that sideboard there? If you strip an oak piece, it will look more modern than if it's stained and shiny and yellow. You can also do the Axel Vervoort trick and go with a deep, dark brown but almost black waxed finish on a really primitive piece. Tasty. Another element to keep in mind is contrast. If you look at the dining room and It's Complicated, you've got the bleached oak table, which, by the way, is a shape that I would call a rounded rectangle rather than oval, and we'll talk about that. But the dining chairs are black. So that hit of black, and you turn around and you look at the living room, and there are these creamy linen slip-covered armchairs, but in between them is this dark-turned ebony wood, bronze, dark. A little point of contrast, it keeps the room from being bland. The setting is light stucco walls. Now, when I say light stucco, notice I didn't say white stucco. I'm gonna tell you, white walls and black windows are not gonna get you to It's Complicated. I would choose wall colors which are a little bit warmer and more neutral. The walls in the house in It's Complicated are, I don't wanna call them beige because beige has such a dull connotation to it, but there is an earthiness to it which connects us to the exterior. One of the other big characteristics of this Santa Barbara style is the fluid connection between interior and exterior. How do we take the color and lightness of the exterior and bring it inside? Sisal and wicker and wrought iron are materials that are often associated with outdoor furniture. We like to bring some of that inside, and we like to bring some wood and some soft fabric and some throws outside, and suddenly you're living in a space where the boundary between interior and exterior is a little bit fluid. If you live in Minnesota, that might not be possible, but you can still do it with your choice of materials and colors. So I'm gonna take you room by room through the It's Complicated set. in the kitchen, there are really three elements: the island, the stools, and the iron pendant lights over the island. So the island is a marble top island, open underneath, dark legs. If you need wood, you could do wood legs. I'm gonna show you iron legged islands that are beautiful shape and size, but you might have to go to the marble yard and get a slab of marble cut to go on top. Don't be afraid to personalize and make it yours. And if you're doing the marble island, let's talk about the thickness of the slab and what the edge detail should look like. If you want something that's a little more classical and soft, you can have them route the edge like a little piece of molding, what we call an OG shape. I often do a double thickness slab, so it's 1.5 inches thick, and I just ease the edges and I let it be square. That's a little more modern. The marble yard will show you that and ask you what you want. And if you're not sure, go online, look at marble counter edge options, and choose the one that looks good to you. Then there are stools, and the stools that I've chosen are very simple and plain, because what we did in It's Complicated is we made these little slip cover seats, orange, that just soften it and personalize it. And then the lights that I've chosen are just black iron pendant lights. They're from Visual Comfort. I think they're Thomas O'Brien. They're industrial without being, you don't want your kitchen to look like a factory. Here's my big advice, because now we're in your house. Number one, limit the number of choices. It is very tempting, especially if you're spending your own money, to make everything a little too much. Look at the overall impression and make sure that nothing draws too much attention. The dining room is a bleached oak table. The shape is what I would call a rounded rectangle. Picture a rectangle and then literally draw a perfect semicircle at either end. An oval has more of a mid-century vibe, and that's not what we're going for. Now, you might be able to find a lovely bleached oak antique table, which would be great, but I've flagged a couple which I think are reproductions made with reclaimed oak, and for me, that's simple and that's good. Then you've got your Swedish chairs. The chairs in It's Complicated, I think Beth found these antique chairs and had them reproduced. I have pulled some Swedish Gustavian armchairs. There are reproductions, there are real old ones. You can get them armless, but the ones with the curved arms are the ones that are super nice, and what we used in the movie, and we put little upholstered seat cushions in them, orange of course. Then we're going to do the chandelier. Now, chandeliers, you have to be careful. Go French or go Italian. Go wrought iron, although you can have a little bit of a turned wood. You will see the chandeliers that I chose, which have this balance between being old pieces, but there is something simple and clean and modern about them. Do not go fancy. You can go iron, but limit the number of curlicues. Don't do hanging crystals. Simple, clean shapes. And the size of the chandelier depends on the size of the room that you're putting it in, the size of the table that you're putting it over, but also the shape of the table. The cathedral ceiling gets a bigger chandelier. A living room chandelier is going to go up high, but a dining room chandelier wants to be approximately 3 feet over the tabletop. A higher ceiling can take a bigger chandelier. A flat ceiling, your chandelier is going to be closer to the ceiling and probably doesn't want to be as big or as tall. Then you have the size and shape of the table. A rectangular table can probably take a little bit bigger chandelier than a round table. And if you're not sure, cut out a piece of cardboard and just look at it. That's my suggestion. Anyway, then you've got two other elements in the dining room. You've got this little oak console in the front window, and that's, just where you put a plant and a couple of glass hurricanes, something like that. And then there are these, what I would call impressionist landscape paintings. You can also do California impressionist landscape, but what you'll see is I have chosen paintings with pretty simple but antique gold frames, picking up on this idea of bringing the outside in. The images themselves, they bring the outside in. It's landscape, it's sunshine, it's warm colors, it's a certain kind of light. Not too big. This is just a little lift. One of the things that's nice about the It's Complicated living room is that it's a casual arrangement of furniture. It's not two sofas facing each other, which is the most formal, or a sofa and two matching armchairs. There's a sofa, then there's a pair of upholstered chairs, then there's like two different non-matching armchairs, and it creates a casual circle of furniture around a big square coffee table. That is a good look. So I start with sofa, and I put in a couple of sort of Belgian style rolled arm slip covered sofas. These are new sofas that you can order on Chairish. Don't go white. Think warm, light, natural earth. You can go a little gray if that's more your thing. You can go a little more beige or khaki or natural. Same principle for the armchairs. Simple, slip covered. We always like a slip cover. It just feels more casual. If you're gonna wash the slip cover, make sure that the linen is washed before they make the slip covers, or decide that you're gonna dry clean them and then it's okay. That zinc tabletop on the coffee table in the living room brings metal in a way that is very soft. Even though it's silver, it's not chrome. It's not bright, shiny, scary, but it feels like a natural material. Zinc is the metal that's used on French bar tops. You feel its age without it feeling old and dirty. A modern piece with reclaimed wood, X-brace, it blends into the palette of the house. The contemporary pieces aren't too strikingly modern, and the antique pieces are softly antique. You couldn't necessarily identify a period or where they're from. I put a couple coffee table ideas in there. You'll see I have some gourd lamps. I have some urn lamps. Some of them are like natural pottery color. Some of them are darker. Some of the gourds are lighter. You can never go wrong with a clear glass cylinder. You don't want to be matchy-matchy. There is also a big kind of trestle wall table along one wall. That's a good place to have a character piece. And when I say character, what I mean is, like, sometimes you'll find a piece with like some distressed paint. Maybe it's a stained piece. Maybe it's a turned leg piece. Maybe that's where, because it stands alone by itself, you can choose a piece that's a little more important or distinctive, I'm gonna say. Reclaimed wood, restored pieces are your friend. They're my friends, so they can be your friends. The bed in It's Complicated is a wood French framed bed upholstered inside of the wood frame. So there's one that's actually a little bit more turned Baroque, and you would need to add the upholstery, which I would do with a welt. A welt is one of those little same fabric piping that you use to like trim out your cushions. That's what I would do with that one, and you could do it in natural wood, you could do it in bleached oak. If you got somebody who's talented, give it a little kind of a distressed gold finish if you're kind of a romantic. And if you like YouTube, which you obviously do, I guarantee you there are 100 people who will show you how to do a distressed gold frame finish. Paint the frame before you do the upholstery. Otherwise, you're going to get gold paint on your beautiful upholstery. Just a suggestion. There's a primitive bench at the foot of the bed. There are non-matching end tables. One of them is actually a little writing desk. And then there is a bleached oak dresser, definitely in this world, with kind of like distinctive hardware and a gold frame mirror. Don't be afraid to break the rules a little bit and scale your mirror to the dresser that's underneath it. I put some French armchairs in there because, like, for me, I've always got to have a place to like throw my clothes in the bedroom, so it's less about a comfortable reading chair. If you've got like a bedroom with a sitting area, then you do a sitting area. Otherwise, do a little armchair to throw your clothes, or a bench at the foot of the bed or something like that, and finish out the look of your room. So now we're going to go to the Q&A section. Elise has pulled specific questions that you guys have asked about how to achieve the look from It's Complicated in your house. Candy One Girl. No matching wood tones unless it's bleached like this. Here's what I don't want. In my house or in my sets, I don't want it to look like I went into the Ethan Allen showroom and just ordered the colonial bedroom. Matchy smatchy is not your friend. If you have a matching bedroom set and the headboards and the 2 nightstands and the dresser all match, that is going to overwhelm the room because every piece of furniture is going to be the same. Now that doesn't mean give me bleached, give me blonde, give me teak, there has to be a sympathy to it. And I would decide, are you going in a light world or a dark world in general? That pine dresser, which is more golden, to me lives happily with this sideboard, which is more bleached. But you have to use your own judgment. What I want is a bed. I want 2 nightstands. They can match if you want, but I tend to like a non-matching thing. And if you start with the headboard and then say, okay, what complements this? Maybe 1 lighter, 1 darker. Maybe 1 rectangular with open shelves and 1 round table with a cloth on top of it. Where is the dresser in the room and how does that relate to the other pieces? If you look at my store on Chairish, I think you will find an eclectic mix of wood tones, especially in the bedroom. And you'll see what I chose that I think goes together. And my best play is pull out a dozen things that you like or 20 or 30 things that you like and then narrow them down and see what sort of lives comfortably together. Not matchy smatchy though. Don't do it. Find images of spaces that you find charming and ask yourself, what's the difference between my kitchen and what's in this picture? Is it the cabinetry? Is it the scale? Is it the coziness of the room? I love a built-in seating area or a window seat. I like cabinets that create nooks. If you've got room for like a glassed off pantry or butler's pantry, I'm just a sucker for a butler's pantry and glass cabinets. Those are all elements that to me are charming. Kitchens are primarily functional spaces, and you are totally right about that. Bottom line kitchen functionality. There needs to be a triangle, whether it's stove with ovens under it or stovetop wall ovens, sink, refrigerator. Those are the 3 areas that you're going to use, and you need to make sure that they are in a workable proximity for you. Like I do movie kitchens. I will make your kitchen look great and you'll be like, where's the oregano? Kimberly Yayers, you want the algorithm for how to design a set. I am sure that if it doesn't exist now, AI will come and do that soon. And I'm only halfway kidding. Do you want to know the golden ratio of how much cream and how much color and whatever? There isn't one, but what I would say is if you find images of spaces that you love, do your own little analysis. See if you can find a couple other rooms that have white walls and bleached oak furniture. Figure out what the elements are. If you go to Pinterest and you pull 20 rooms that all are lined with books, I think you like books. Choose what's important to you. Start with those elements. Art, carpet, drapery. If you're a wallpaper person, that can be the dominant thing in the room. What you don't want is a pattern that's going to be so dominant that it draws your eye to it. So it can have some color in it. It can have some pattern. I prefer subtle tone-on-tone kinds of patterns that read more like texture than a bold distraction. That's me. One thing to be really mindful of when you're designing your house is it's very easy to fall in love with someone's palatial home. But if you live in a 1-bedroom apartment, don't be fooled, because you'll end up with a couch that doesn't fit through the door and eats your living room. Same principle applies to the art. What I do always is a ground plan. There are art websites where you can go and you can choose, do you want 16 by 20? Do you want 20 by 24? Do you want this? But try those sizes. And a lot of them have try this in your room features. You don't need to buy their painting, but use the software and see which size painting looks good to you. My suggestion in a smaller space is rather than a big couch and a big painting, go for more of the gallery wall, a collection of smaller pieces. It's less about the image itself than how those pieces blend together and create a nice texture on the wall. JMO 702. Is that your area code? Okay, so partly the lighting is done by the cameraman, the cinematographer, with the gaffer who works for the cinematographer. What you want to do is you want to create warmth and you want to highlight certain areas. And so you want to use practical lighting. We call practical lights in movies anything that you can plug in. So it can be a chandelier, it can be a sconce, it can be a table lamp, it can be a floor lamp. You want to use a combination of those elements. And don't forget about architectural lighting. Like if you've got built-in bookcases like Jane has in her living room, get warm 2700K LED tape and put it underneath your shelf and you'll get like this nice warm glow behind the shelves. It's what people have been doing for years under their kitchen cabinets, but you can do it in your bookshelf. We call that architectural lighting. Don't use track lighting, just don't. I am somebody who doesn't love dark rooms. So I'm gonna say it's fine to use can lighting, but what you can do with that can lighting, lay it out in a grid. The kitchen gets its own lighting, dimmers, controls. You wanna have the ability to light your kitchen counters so you can see what you're cooking. So I wanna be able to control the dining room can lights separately from the living room can lights. And I wanna be able to control the chandelier separately from the sconces, and I want the dining room sconces to be controlled separately from the music room sconces. So even when you're doing built-in can lights or chandeliers or sconces, put everything on dimmers, because a lot of it is being able to control not only on and off, but also how bright different areas become. Here's what I'm going to say. Love it or list it, right? No, that's a joke. Here's what I have to say. People bump up against this all the time. And it's not just, I love it's complicated, I love the vibe, I love what it is, but I live in a 1-bedroom high-rise apartment with glass walls. I think a little bit you have to be realistic about the expectations that you set. You're not really going to change the architecture. You can definitely play with the colors. I would look at like what the floor is. I would look at what the ceiling is. I would look at bringing in some of the warmth of It's Complicated, and I would look at choosing furnishings which are not colonial. One of the defining characteristics of the style is slip-covered furniture. I'm going to say a little bit maybe in the Belgian style. I think if you bring some Italian into the mix, and so it's less Spanish, which in my mind is more kind of rustic, and Italian is a little more elegant and refined, I would try to bring some wood and warmth into like the mantle, and if there are bookcases, and maybe a wainscot, and definitely beams and color. Don't be afraid to go for those warm kind of California colors, and then start adding art, rugs, drapery, and this is a really good place to work with a decorator. If I'm doing your colonial living room, I'm going to look at this couple. They have 2 books out. It's called Patina Farm. They have a very Santa Barbara style house in Ojai. I would say Patina is the sort of extreme Santa Barbara style. It's never going to be a Spanish house, and if you try to make it a Spanish house, it's not going to fit. And so I take inspiration from the best people who have solved that problem. Forgive me if this was like too granular and high-endy, but that's what I would do. Lily, patience, you've stuck the dagger through my heart and twisted it. You think the dent in the fridge bugs you? It kills me. Here's the reality. When you do a set, you make it so the walls come out and the furniture gets moved, and suddenly they want to put the camera where the refrigerator is, and some, I don't want to say numbnuts, but numbnuts moves the refrigerator, dents it, and you've only got one refrigerator. I wish I had a better answer. It's not a good answer. I would design Jane's kitchen the way I would design your kitchen. Now, She is a woman who owns a bakery. I guarantee you she has some very specific ideas about what the kitchen should be and how the kitchen would work. There are certainly people who look at that house and say, what's wrong with the kitchen she's got? I would start with, what is her current kitchen not giving her that she wants to have? And then how do we design a kitchen which respects the architectural style of the house? If you've got the space and the money and you're all about the kitchen, you may want a series of dedicated rooms, because what I will tell you is the charm of that house is the scale and the relationship of the dining room to the living room. So my instinct would be bump out the wall into the courtyard a little bit, include the pantry, and anything that's not there, bump out in an unseen way that's not going to eat too much of the courtyard and not going to overwhelm the rest of the house. I guarantee you we made that headboard. I'm sure we found something beautiful, a shape that we love. It's very Italian. A lot of people make them now. If you Google image search, you will find something similar. And if you don't find something that's similar enough, take a picture, take it to an upholstery shop and ask them to make it for you. It's a super simple ask because it's an upholstered headboard. There is a range. In the scope of movies, we have a pretty long prep time, which is about 4.5 months before we shoot. I just finished a movie where we had 7 weeks, less than 2 months, to prep the entire movie. So a little bit, the process has to expand or contract to the time that's available. Shusha, did you watch the movie? They live in Meryl's house. What do you think? What's her name? Lake Bell is going to keep Alec's house. He didn't like that house anyway. And Meryl's house is Meryl's house. By the way, all he wants to do is come back. He's, I love the food. I love being here. I love they're going to live in her house exactly the way it is, but it's going to have a bigger kitchen and a bigger bedroom. The end. It's complicated. Orange is the main accent color, and the story is we were shooting the movie in New York, and Nancy said, when you're in Santa Barbara, there's these orange tile roofs, and people have orange trees, and let's try to bring that into the movie. So the upholstery on the stools in the kitchen, and the table runner in the dining room, and there's a French armchair with orange upholstery. There's these pops of orange, a throw at the foot of the bed. It was a strong, intentional, specific choice to evoke the vibe of Santa Barbara. It keeps it from being generic and neutral. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I would love to talk more about the process and the elements that I use to create these sets and help you guys bring some of this into your own homes and your lives. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.